Let's go. We got Wendy S. Meadows in the house. Wendy and I, it's funny, we met about a year ago from the time that we're recording this. And you're going to see what this person has accomplished over the past year because she has made some freaking magic happen. All right. And I'm just going to get right into it. And I want to kick it off with this. Wendy, a year ago, did you think that you would be on this podcast as a best-selling author, traveling the country as a speaker and running a massively successful group program that you constantly are building?
It was a tiny sparkle in my heart, but I did not think this would happen this quickly. No way.
Okay, so let's start here. Okay, we meet in October. Okay, we get to know each other a little bit more. We really get to kind of kick off our book experience together in March. You came to our live event. Right. 6 months later, your book's ready. 7 months later, you're speaking. We're going to share some of those things that have happened. But what for you was like the driving factor of like, I have this little sparkle in my heart to I'm doing it and I'm getting it done quickly and effectively?
Well, first, I'm a person that once I decide I'm going to do something, it happens. So I've always knew I wanted to write a book. That was always on my heart. It was always a thing. And then I saw you speak in October, so just a year ago, and you showed the easy way to do it. I'm like, cool. And then I came to your event in March. Again, you showed us the easy way to do it. Cool. And I'm like, all right, this is getting done, period, end of story. And because I had the method, I knew what I wanted to write about. And once I had the path, it just came out.
Okay, I love it. Now let's talk about it. Your book, Sparkle and Grit, instant bestseller. People all over the country, some celebrities have gotten the book. Like this has been unbelievable for you. And talk to us real quick. What is the book really all about? What is Sparkle and Grit? How did it come to be?
Yes. All right. So Sparkle and Grit is a theme I've been working with, I'd say, for the last 5 or 6 years. And I believe with Sparkle and Grit, you can achieve anything. So sparkle is the idea, like the thing on your path designed to wake you up and be like, I want that too. And it starts that internal yearning, but we can't have sparkle without grit. Like you actually have to put in the hard work to get there. So I walk the readers through a sparkle and grit lifestyle, explain to them what sparkle and grit is, but who I was really talking to in the book was me 5 years ago. And me 5 years ago was the burnt out, overworked, bored, drib drab mother of 2 very small children. And over the course, like about 2015, 2016, I started taking steps to change my life and make my life more technicolor, as I discuss in the subtitle of my book. And I walk my readers on how they can go from a 50 shades of gray, not the fun kind life, to a life full of technicolor and more of a life by design where they actually wake up excited to get out of bed rather than hitting the snooze button. So I talked to the 5 year ago me throughout the book.
Okay. And when you were writing your book, how valuable did you find it to write to one specific person? And in your case, it was to who you were 5 years ago before you had gone through this transformation, before you had figured out how to really leverage the Sparkle and Grit methodology. How valuable was it to really focus in when you're writing it on that one specific person, avatar, whatever you want to call it?
It kept me extremely focused. And Jake, as I'm sure you've seen, I tend to get scattered at times and I tend to have a million ideas and I don't know where to go with them. I even think in March, I had several different ideas of where to go with the book and I wasn't quite sure where to go with them. But when I figured out my audience, which is myself, and I figured out the lessons I wanted to share, it became much more streamlined. So therefore, when I sat down every morning to write, I knew exactly what I was writing about and to who. Because my book, if you read it, it's very conversationalist. Like my friends will say, this is just like talking with Wendy. So when I was having that conversation, I was always having the conversation with the same person, picturing the me 5 years ago.
Okay. And Sparkle and Grit, okay? You have a program that's built based on the book and the framework that you talk about in the book. Did the book inspire and grow the program? Did the program inspire the book? Walk us through kind of how those have evolved and how you've piggybacked off of one another.
Yeah. The book 100%, it is like my new outline on life. So every time I have a speaking engagement or with the Sparkle and Grit group coaching program, the book is the outline. And what makes it, and it just makes everything so much easier. So I had like I said, I had all these ideas I was very scattered, but working with you and your team, now the idea is solidified. I wrote them all out. And now as I'm creating my Sparkle and Grit group program, it's based on the book. We take it chapter by chapter, and I ask the readers to go through something I call grit work throughout the book. And some of the feedback I'm getting is like, Wendy, there's really tough questions in here that I'm not ready to answer yet. And I'd rather do that if someone was like sitting there holding my hand, or I'd rather do that sitting with a community of women so we can all have these discussions together. So the book definitely led to the coaching program, I would say.
Okay, I love this. And talk me through this, because you were planning this, you were doing launches, you had multiple state book a book launch tour. Like, how did you decide that you were going to turn this book into something that sparked, right? Using your word, like sparked this next adventure of your career, because you're a mom, you're busy, you work, like you have all of these things that are already going on. How did you end up deciding you're just going all in on this and really just going from the East Coast to the West Coast, getting speaking engagements like all within a matter of a month since you prepped the launch?
I could give a very long answer to that question, so I'll try and be as succinct as possible. Basically, I've been a practicing attorney for a very long time, about 18 years or so. 5 years ago, I went solo. And one of the main reasons I went solo and opened my own practice here was to decide, what is it I'm actually supposed to do on this planet? Like, what is it? And I realized throughout the past 5 years, it's more to do not in the family law world that I've been in, but it's more to help others, mostly women, but I have I've coached dads as well, or not dads, men, women, whoever. But my job is to coach people so they can live the Technicolor life they want. Writing this book solidified that for me. My beta readers who read this is like, oh my gosh, Wendy, this is really good. And again, the feedback I'm getting, they're like, I was really afraid we wouldn't like it because we're really discerning readers, but this is actually really good. And when I was with you at your event at the Big Idea to Bestseller is that last month? That was just last month. It's so crazy. I just felt like I was in the right place. I'm like, when I wear the title author, I'm in the right place. I'm doing the right thing. Like I enjoy the writing process. So again, the easy answer to your question is I don't know how that not to be my life and how that not to be the next thing. You know, I've been like life coaching for the last several years and really enjoying it, but sometimes I didn't feel like I was particular enough. And the book has made me more particular in that way. So long story short, I don't know how not to do all those things. And we can certainly talk about why I decided to take my book cross country as well, which was really super fun. But again, I didn't know how not to. Once I get an idea in my head, I have to act on it or else I can't sleep.
It's interesting that you say that, because who we become in the process of writing a book is an internal and external evolution that is very hard to predict or to see before it happens, right? And you talk about how this identity of an author really kind of brought it all home for you. Yeah. Who have you become in this process, both internally and externally, because of the book? And how has that made you feel as you go on to do these next things, group programs, speaking engagements, and do more and more of that line of work?
My confidence has 10x'd, definitely. And I would say even a year ago, I was pretty confident. I was pretty good at walking up to anyone in the room and having a conversation. But now when I tell people, oh, and I'm an author or I'm a best-selling author, immediately it's like my credibility in their eyes raises 10 points. And not that
and you can see that. And you can see that, right? Literally they're like, oh, right? Like you see it. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
And not that I need other people to boost my confidence or to boost my credibility, but it does feel good. I'd be lying to say if it didn't feel good. But now when I walk into a room as I'm the only author in the room, I'm the only expert in the room. And then when I do these, I've been having a lot of speaking engagements the last several weeks, it just makes me so much more confident rolling in there with a book behind me. So I've been doing speaking engagements on being a healthy lawyer since 2015. So I've been doing those pretty regularly. Now that I have a book behind me, it feels more legit. And those speaking engagements went from volunteer to paid. So that's the difference in there as well.
I really, really love this. And I want to dig deep on this because you really are talented in what you do. I love the idea of sparkle and grit. I love like the Technicolor life. Like I love how you've kind of built this around an industry that's as traditional as law, but as exciting as like being a vibrant mom can be, right? And I think you've done a really great job blending the two. And it seems like the world is also resonating with this message. Okay. What are some of these wins that you've had? Because you talk about the internal win, right? You talk about that feeling. I want to know some of like the tangible things that have happened, volunteer to paid, right? Like, what are some of the things that have happened to you since your book launched? How many speaking gigs have you done? Like, just start rambling these off because I want to hype you up for a second.
All right. I've had at least 3 speaking gigs in the last month paid, and I'm getting requests to be on podcasts left and right. I can't even keep track anymore. So obviously I have a spreadsheet now to keep track of these things and what I'm supposed to be doing and where I'm supposed to be and when. The one I'm really excited about right now, I was just asked to speak at a women's summit in March in my hometown, and there's going to be 150 attendees there. They have to pay to be there, and they're all getting a copy of my book. Like that's part of what they're getting to come. So obviously the library, and it's the library in my town, which is really cool because a library obviously is all about books, and like I'm the author that they chose for this year. So I'm really excited for that. What else? They just keep coming. It's a lot of speaking opportunities. And again, I think one of my favorite parts though too is getting the texts from friends or from people I don't even know, saying, oh my gosh, this book helped me, or oh my gosh, like this just made me feel heard. And I was at an event, I was actually attending an event, which is really weird. It's really hard to attend an event now and not be a speaker on stage. And that was on Friday. And one of the women came up to me, like she started crying the minute she saw me. She's like, Wendy, I'm reading your book. And it's just like, she made me feel all warm and gooey inside because she was tearing up saying like, you really got me. Like you got me in the first 3 pages. Then honestly, it's those personal human connections that matter the most to me out of all this stuff.
It's so cool. It's so cool. Let's talk about the sparkle and grit methodology. All right, let's dig in here. So you mentioned a little bit ago that the book has become your outline for everything, right? It's become your outline for the new and improved program. It's become the outline for social media. It's become the outline for speaking engagements. Walk us through some of the core things that you really talk about so that we can understand what the difference between sparkle and grit is and how we can really blend them together.
Sure. So like I said before, like sparkle is the inspiration or the want, the desire, grit is the hard work. And an interesting example that I got again via text message from a friend, she was hiking, I think somewhere in Arizona, and she had missed out on a lot of amazing hiking opportunities before because she was too afraid to get like to the edge of the cliff. It terrified her, but she really wanted to do it. So she went again, she read my book on the plane, and she got to Arizona and she thought to herself, like, I don't want to miss out this time. Like, why am I traveling this far away and not doing these cool things? So her sparkle was like, I don't want to miss out. I want to see all the beauty that Arizona has for me. And the grit is actually taking the baby steps, like to the edge of the cliff safely to do it. So like I really love that example she gave because it shows how you can apply sparkle and grit to anything. I mean, obviously I applied sparkle and grit to the book. Sparkle, I met you. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a way I can actually write this darn thing. And then grit, showing up every morning to do so. But what I talk about in the book, because like sparkle and grit is just the theme, I talk about the different concrete pieces on what you can do to live a sparkle and grit lifestyle. And I start with the morning routine. I think a morning routine is really important. And almost any speaking engagement I have people go through one thing they need to add to their morning routine and one thing they need to ditch. So that was really cool. Yes, just yesterday, we had a huge conversation on that. And there's a lot of men in that group as well, which is really fun. And all the men decided no more news in the morning. Like we can't look at the news first thing in the morning. We have to wait until later in the day.
Let me interject here real quick on the morning routine thing, because I love the morning routine. Okay. And I've gone through waves of being incredibly rigid. I've gone through waves of being a little more fluid with the routine. But I would love to know here, what is your take on because people associate morning routine with like the 5 a.m. club, right? The early risers are the ones that do the morning routine. And that can get old real quick if we're being honest. What do you tell people? Like, do you believe that the morning routine can be whenever, like, is morning routine synonymous with just like when you wake up your routine? or is it more so equated to a certain time in the morning? How do you kind of define that, and how have you found it to be successful?
Sure. There's two cornerstones I give to everybody. Like these are the two things. Number one, if you have children, you have to wake up before your kids. Like that's number one. So I don't really care when you're waking up, so long as you're waking up at least in half an hour before your children. If not, you're running on defense all day. Because
Mm.
as moms, we are tired, we are exhausted, we are doing things for other from the moment our children wake up until they go to bed. And now that my oldest is about to be 12, he goes to bed after me. So like, unless I wake up before him, like I have no time in my day that I'm not on for somebody else. So number one, I tell the readers in my book, I don't care what you're doing. You don't have to work out. You don't have to meditate. You can just drink your coffee and sit there for half an hour before the kids wake up. That's number one, period. Number two is the morning routine starts the night before. What most of my colleagues do for their me time or downtime is Netflix and wine, popcorn, whatever. And that is just not going to get my colleagues where they actually want to be. Like we think it's good for us, like we think it's like nice, we think we deserve it, but what we actually deserve is that morning time in the morning so we can actually, or our me time in the morning. So we have a time to have a thought in our head before anyone else's thought infiltrates our head. So those are the two main components I think are most important in a morning routine. And then of course I give the other ones that people need to have. I call them anchors in the book. Like find that one anchor that is like your thing and then start building. Because certainly when I started my morning routine, I didn't do all the amazing things I do today. Like I started with one. I started with working out, and then layered them on from as we went on.
I love it. I think you've done a really great job of finding ways like to really relate to that reader, right? And that's what a great book really is all about, is can you be in the mind of your ideal reader? And that's exactly, you know it, you know your reader, you know what they need, and you know how it works. Like that's why people are just really responding to your book. I'm curious though, you mentioned the Netflix, the wine, the popcorn, but you mentioned the routine starts the night before. So do you think that there is because it's obviously we love to all chill. We love to like put our feet up. I mean, it's a long day of work, right? Like everyone loves to do that. So are you saying that that should be eliminated, or do
Yeah.
you believe it should just be monitored, or be conscious of what time you're doing that till, or how much of both of those things you're doing, or like where can you find that? I don't love the word balance in this situation, but where can you find that dance between
Mhm.
having that relaxing pleasure while also still setting yourself up for the morning, for the next morning?
Right. So when I'm life coaching one-on-one, this is a conversation we have all the time. Because I'm not telling people to give up these things forever, and sometimes like that is the way we connect with our spouse. And that is how my spouse and I connect, is like watching one of our favorite shows. I just tell people, or I encourage people, it can't be every single night. And it can't be every single night if you start noticing in the morning, you're waking up tired, you're waking up snapping at your children, you're waking up fuzzy, hungover, feeling icky, all of those things when it's no longer working for your goals. In an ideal world, I think we do that once, like we have the Netflix and chill, like once or twice a week, once or twice a week. And and that's what I tell people, like, when you're taking it too far, like, and it's like, I'm the one to call you out on it. Like, it's time. And like, trust me, I've been there too. It's not, and I say it in my book, I'm like, I'm not perfect. I still screw up. I would say like a couple of weeks ago, my husband and I, we were getting into that habit again. We were staying up later than I wanted to. And then what I noticed was every morning I felt not so great. And I started yelling at my kids more. And my whole book, I talk about, I don't want to be a yelling mommy, but I know if I don't have the morning routine time to have quiet, and if I wake up fuzzy, I'm not the best mom. And then I start yelling, and then I feel bad about myself. And it's a cycle, cycle, cycle. So I'm not telling people no forever, but just to be cognizant of it and aware of it, and to really evaluate when they wake up, how do they feel, and compare and contrast. So if they wake up after a Netflix night, probably wine in there too, and they're going to feel fuzzy, take note. But then what I really want them to take note of, when they went to bed earlier the night before and they didn't do all the other stuff, like take note of how you feel. Like, oh wow, like my whole body feels good. I don't feel fuzzy. I don't feel headachy. I feel pretty amazing, and I'm ready to like go do the next thing, and I'm clear headed. I really want them to harness, like take note of that feeling so they can harness it, and they want more of that, not more of the relaxing time.
That's what I'm talking about, Wendy. That's what I'm talking about. What else is next? You're doing a keynote. Let's say you're doing a speech. Walk us through another potential thing that you could pull from the book and talk about.
A very favorite exercise I have in my book is, it's a part that's actually going to be in my journal as well. And it's a part of the morning routine part, but I think this actually could have been a whole chapter. So if I were to rewrite the book, this might have been a whole chapter. And it's the power of I am. And what I ask readers to do is really think about, when they wake up and they have that time to themselves, think about their big event for the day. Right. So maybe my big event for the day is the podcast. Right. So my big event the day is doing the podcast with Jake. And then I think, well, who do I need to be on that podcast so it's successful? Well, I want to be energetic. I want to be well-spoken. I want to be clear, as direct as I can be and not be too scattered, whatever. But I would say I want to be energetic and well-spoken. And then to take a minute, close my eyes and visualize myself on the podcast saying, okay, big event of the day is the podcast. I want to be clear and well-spoken, and walk myself through that a little bit. And so that's the example for today, but I have used that in court, or for preparing for court. I've used that for how I'm going to address my kids when they come home from school, how I'm going to address my husband as he's leaving for a boys' weekend. That's my favorite story. But I've used it again and again. And that's one of my favorite things to teach because it's so flipping simple. And it only takes people like 1 minute to do. Like 1 minute. And that one little visualization or thinking of who they want to be that day, it will change the trajectory of their day, which will then change the trajectory of their life to get from, again, gray to technicolor. We're actually deciding who we want to be. I call it future. Maybe I did have a whole chapter in the book, the future planning chapter, but I talked about future casting in the book. And that is one of my favorite pieces by far.
I love it. I want to do one more thing here with you. And I want to go one step deeper. What's another element of the Sparkle and Grit methodology that you coach people through?
So I call it seeing in color. And that's the chapter in the book. And my whole reason I'm here, right? Like I said before, like I'm not meant to be a family law attorney forever. I am meant to be on this planet because I firmly believe that women especially need encouragement and a light. And with better rested, more empowered women, we have the duty and power to change the world. Yep. And I wrote it in the shit. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this podcast, but like in the shit show we have now. And I wrote that in January of 21. I think we can probably say the same for like where we are when we're recording this podcast, right? Like we need our women to be well-rested, empowered, so they have the words they need to have. So the people out there that are going to make the changes that we need to see in this world can do it. I get like chills when I talk about this because like I might not be the person that can effectuate the change I would love to see, but I know I can support the women that can and the men, right? And we're not going to make the big, amazing changes we need to see in this world to make the world a better place unless we have the sparkle and grit mindset, right? Unless we're doing the things to take care of ourselves so we can take care of everybody else. So in the group, I walk people through like, what are your values when it comes to work, when it comes to family, health, and self? And I walk my readers through crafting their own personal mission statement. So when they're feeling twirly about something and they don't know what to feel, what to act, should they say yes, should they say no, they can always rely back on their mission statement and read it and say, does this align with me and my values? So that's where I end the book in terms of bringing the whole thing full circle.
See, it's really cool because for everyone that's listening to this, Wendy is literally just pulling out pieces of the book as we talk through this. And that has become your program that people get more in depth. That has become why people resonate with the book. And it's really cool because I kind of put you on the spot there. And I don't know if you noticed it, but I'm kind of like, all right, let's do another one. Let's do another one. What's the process? What's digging in? But that is how you create something that lasts a long time, because now you have the ultimate tool and you're seeing that, right? You came on this show. We didn't prepare exactly what we were going to talk about, and we're riffing based off the book. I dig deeper into those areas. It's enlightening. You have a story behind each one. That is really, really magical. And I want everyone who's listening to this right now to understand that once you have a book, you now have the only tool you need to expand into the next level of yourself and your credibility and your business and everything that you aim to do, right? Because when you do your I am statements after this, because of what Wendy just said, you're going to be saying, I am an author, right? I am a speaker. I am this person. And you're setting yourself up for this great success. So Wendy, I want to kind of do a couple little rapid fire things if you are right with it. And I've done this a few times on the show. It's kind of sometimes when I feel like getting wild, and there's no rhyme or reason to this. Just all I ask is that you give the first thought you have and kind of just bang it out. Sound good?
All right. Sure. I'm gonna do a Jake this.
Yeah. Let's get going here. All right. So first rapid fire question here is this. Okay. What is the one thing you are most excited about moving forward with your book?
Bringing the Sparkle and Grit workshop to other women's organizations, small firms, bar associations across the country and world.
Okay. And what is one piece of advice that you would have for any person who's thought about writing a book?
To wake up every morning, first thing you do, write 30 minutes. Don't look at anything else. Just
beautiful.
30 minutes.
How long did it take you to go from when we met at the live event to writing and completing your rough draft?
All right. So we met, I think I looked it up recently, October 6th. So that was 2 weeks ago. Let's say October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. 8 months.
From when we met
in June.
And then in March was when you actually started working on the book. And so it took you less than 2 months to get the book written and ready to the next level.
Yeah. March, April, May, June.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Perfect. Yep. Perfect. What has been your ultimate highlight since releasing your book?
Women coming to me and telling me they feel heard. Like, oh my God, she gets me. Like, they're Wendy, I was laughing and crying in the intro. Like, you got me that fast.
Amazing. Where is the best place to follow you on social media?
Wendy on Instagram, LinkedIn, Wendy S Meadows or Sparkle and Grit.
Okay, beautiful. Great job on the rapid fire here. As we kind of start to wrap this up, Wendy, you are really talented at what you do. You've had the experience, you've had the stories, you've had the knowledge, you've personally done the work. And now you've turned this into an incredible, incredible book called Sparkle and Grit. How do we get to work with you? How do we hire you? How can we make sure that we are in your circle so that we can follow along the rest of the journey?
Probably easiest way is to go to sparkleandgrit.com. I'm sure you'll have that in the show notes, and then that will show all the places you can coach with me. You can buy the book. Like I said, my Sparkle and Grit journal, I believe, is coming out by Thanksgiving. That's my goal. And that will direct you to all the places you need to go.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And so I just want to take a second here, Wendy, to thank you for coming on the show. You've really done a great job. You've created a book. That book has opened doors. Your book has been in the hands of some very well-known female entrepreneurs. Yeah. Your book has gotten you multiple paid speaking engagements in the first month of release. You've brought your book on a 3-state plus speaking engagement tour to launch your book. You've used your book to start creating new talks. You've turned your book into the outline for life. You've turned your book into a group program that is growing successfully. This is just in the first month since the book has been released. I want you to take a second and recognize how amazing that is. And I want everyone that's listening here to take a second and think about what's possible for you. Yeah. A year ago, we met. A month ago, your book is officially out in the world. And now you are doing some amazing, amazing things. So I just want to say thank you for being a part of it. I want to say thank you for coming on the show. But most importantly, I want to say thank you for believing in yourself and turning that sparkle into something more than just an idea. And you've really done it. You've inspired me throughout the process. You've inspired a lot of other people, as we can tell from this. And you've really been able to help people with tangible things, which I think sometimes we can get lost in this personal development space is let's just all be in what you would call just in the sparkle world. Right, and not enough of the grit world, right? Mm-hmm. Let's be all in the idea, oh, I want to be here. I'm going to do this, but not in the action world. And so I just want to say thank you for being on the show. And for everybody who has been listening to this, I'd encourage you to go check out Wendy's book, Sparkle and Grit, and get it anywhere. But really follow along because she has done a brilliant job of turning her book into the lifeblood of this next level her. And I think that's really, really amazing. So thank you, Wendy, and thank you to everybody who's been listening to this. This has been an awesome, awesome show. Make sure to go follow Wendy, and I will see you on the next one.